Dear students, welcome to the UGC EPG Pathashala on Human Rights and Duties. My name is Professor YSR Murthy. I am the Executive Director for the Center for Human Rights Studies, OP Jindal Global University. In the paper on National Mechanisms for the Protection and Enforcement of Human Rights, we are going to take up today the Right to Information Act. We have already seen a number of other commissions dealing with let us say National Human Rights Commission, Women's, SC, ST, minorities, persons with disabilities, Safai Karamcharis, and before we move on to the Central Information Commission or State Information Commissioners, it is very important for us to understand the framework, the legislative framework for the right to information in India. And in this module, we will look at what is this RTI Act all about, what are the salient features of this Act, and then before we take up the Central Information Commission in the next module. At the end of this module, you should be in a position to analyze the importance of information from the government on all matters which affect any person's rights in the country and the importance of the Right to Information Act. Students should also be in a position to understand what constitutes information under the RTI Act of 2005, who can seek information, where it can be sought, and within what time frame should such a request be replied to. And at the end of the module, you also must be in a position to understand various provisions of the RTI Act and also certain important judgment which talk about the relevance of the Act in India. The Right to Information Act of 2005 replaced the Freedom of Information Act 2002, which was passed in pursuance of the freedom of speech and expression guaranteed under Article 19 1A of the Constitution. The passage of this legislation represents a paradigm shift from an era governed by Official Secrets Act to one marked by transparency and accountability. If you look at Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and also Article 19 of the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, they talk about how a citizen can seek, receive and impart information and ideas. The Supreme Court of India in SP Gupta versus Union of India has also stated that an open government is a powerful safeguard against political and administrative aberrations and inefficiency. In this regard, RTI Act is of utmost significance where actions of the government attract public scrutiny and thus lead on to accountability. The preamble itself recognizes the fact that since the revealing of certain information is likely to conflict with other public interests like the preservation of confidentiality of sensitive information, there is a need to harmonize these conflicting interests. The Act seeks to empower Indian citizens to seek information from a public authority, thus making the government and its functionaries more responsible. Every material that is included within the meaning of information, in fact it has been given a wide meaning in the 2005 Act, it can be sought from the concerned public information officer. Information commissions have also been set up at the central and the state level to administer the provisions of the Act. The RTI Act has in section 22 an overriding effect vis-a-vis other laws including the Official Secrets Act of 1923. What constitutes information under this 2005 RTI Act? If you look at section 2F, it defines information as any material in any form, including records, documents, memos, emails, opinions, advices, press releases, circulars, orders, logbooks, contracts, reports, papers, samples, models, data, material held in any electronic form and information relating to any private body which can be accessed by a public authority under any other law for the time being in force. So, that is a very wide definition indeed. The Supreme Court in Central Board of Secondary Education versus Aditya Bandyopadhyay observed that the effect of the provisions and scheme of the RTI Act is to divide information into three categories. They are: 1. Information which promotes transparency and accountability in the working of every public authority, disclosure of which may also help in containing or discouraging corruption. For instance, the Act requires that they should be proactively disclosed. Secondly, other information held by public authority, that is all information other than those falling under classes B and C of the section 4(1) of the RTI Act. Number 3, information which is not held by or under the control of any public authority and which cannot be accessed by a public authority under any law for the time being in force. The Supreme Court held that information under the third category which I just mentioned does not fall under the scope of the RTI Act. It went on to say that section 3 of the RTI Act gives every citizen the right of information held by or under the control of a public authority which falls either under the first or second category. In regard to the information falling under the first category, there is also a special responsibility upon public authorities suo motu publish and disseminate such information, because they further transparency, they further accountability, and they should be easily and readily made accessible to the public without any need for them to have recourse to the section 6 of the RTI Act. On the other hand, there is no such obligation to publish, disseminate the other information which is falls under the ambit of the second category. Any person who wants to obtain any information under the RTI Act can make a request for the information under section 6 of the Act without giving a reason for such a request or any personal details except those which are necessary to contact him. The Act therefore does not prescribe any specific format of application for making a request under this Act. One needs to pay relevant fee applicable for obtaining the information. However, in the case of whether a particular information sought comes within the ambit of the RTI Act, it is eventually the courts which are asked to adjudicate. For instance, in Kanapuram, Gandaya versus administrative officer, the court held that the definition of information shows that an applicant under section 6 of the RTI Act can get any information which is already in existence and accessible to the public authority under law. Of course, under the RTI Act, an applicant is entitled to get copy of the opinions, advices, circulars, orders, etc., but he cannot ask for any information as to why such opinions, advices, circulars, orders have been passed especially in matters pertaining to judicial decision. Now, who is a public authority under the RTI Act? A public authority is any authority or body or institution of self government established or constituted by or under the constitution or by any other law made by the parliament or a state legislature or by notification issued or order made by the central government or a state government. The body is owned, controlled or substantially financed by the central government or a state government are also public authorities. For instance, take up non-governmental organizations substantially financed by central government or a state government. They also fall within the definition of public authority. The term quote unquote substantially financed is not defined in the RTI Act of 2005. The public authorities have designated some of its officers as public information officers who are responsible to give information to a person who seeks information under the RTI Act. The concerned public information officer is required to accept the request if the information sought is available with him and comes within the purview of the Act, and provide that information or reject the request within 30 days. In Tallapalam Service Cooperative Bank versus State of Kerala, the court held that the expression quote unquote substantially financed as such has not been defined under the Act. Substantial means in a substantial manner so as to be substantial. The word substantial is not synonymous with dominant or majority. It is closer to material or important or of considerable value. Substantially is closer to essentially. The burden to show that a body is owned, controlled or substantially financed, or that a non-governmental organization is substantially financed directly or indirectly by the funds provided by the appropriate government, is the applicant who seeks information or the appropriate government. Are there any exceptions to furnishing of information? Yes, there are, and subsection 1 of section 8 and section 9 of the RTI Act enumerate the types of information which are exempt from disclosure. Section 8 prescribes the following grounds for rejecting a person's request for disclosure of information. It can be rejected on the grounds of national security or sovereignty or integrity of the nation, national economic interests, relations with foreign states, law enforcement and the judicial process, information available to a person in one's fiduciary relationship, cabinet papers and other decision making documents, trade secrets, intellectual property and commercial confidentiality. The exemptions also cover matters relating to individual safety, personal privacy. In fact, there are 3 grounds of rejection which can be cited by public information officers under public interests. They include trade secrets, intellectual property and commercial confidentiality. Number 2, information available to a person in one's fiduciary relationship. 3, personal privacy. Section 9 of RTI Act allows the rejection of a request for disclosure of information that would involve the infringement of a copyright subsisting in a person other than the state. The information which in normal course is exempt from disclosure under subsection 1 of section 8 of the Act would cease to be exempted if 20 years have lapsed after occurrence of the incident to which the information relates. However, there are certain types of information would continue to be exempt and there would be no obligation even after lapse of 20 years to give any citizen. This particular category covers information disclosure of which would prejudicially affect the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security, strategic, scientific or economic interests of the state, relationship with the foreign state or lead to incitement of an offence, information the disclosure of which would cause a breach of privilege of parliament or state legislature. Cabinet papers including records of deliberations of the Council of Ministers, Secretaries and other officers subject to the conditions given in proviso to the clause O of subsection 1 of the section 8 of the Act. In addition, section 24 excludes the operation of the RTI Act 2005 on the intelligence and security organizations specified in the second schedule of the Act. The schedule can be amended by the central government and the state government. In Sailesh Gandhi versus the Central Information Commission, the court held that the records maintained by the income tax department in respect of an individual who is an assessee before it cannot be said to be a public record, as it is well settled that the income tax department holds the said records in a fiduciary capacity. Also, in CBSE versus Aditya Bandyopadhyay, the court held that rules and regulations governing functioning of public authorities require preservation of information for only a limited period. Applicant for information will be entitled to such information only if he seeks information when it was available with public authority. Where information sought was not a part of record of a public authority and where such information was not required to be maintained under any law or rules or regulations of public authority, Act does not cast any obligation upon public authority to collect or collate such non-available information and then furnish it to an applicant. What are the provisions for appeal against decisions made by different authorities? The RTI Act of 2005 mentions who is the concerned authority, what are the time limits for disposal of various requests for obtaining information, and where should be the first appeal lie. And if you look at this graphical representation, it gives the timelines for appeals made under different circumstances. Please analyze this graph or a chart where the different columns give the different categories and the timelines for disposal of appeals. Where the Information Commission at the time of deciding any complaint or appeal is of the opinion that Public Information Officer has, without any reasonable cause, refused to receive an application for information or has not furnished information within the time specified or denied the request for information with a malafide intention or knowingly given incorrect, incomplete or misleading information or destroyed information which was the subject of the request or obstructed in any manner in furnishing the information, it shall impose a penalty of 250 rupees each day till application is received or information is furnished, subject to the condition that the total amount of such penalty shall not exceed 25,000 rupees. What are the powers and functions of the central and state level authorities empowered by the RTI Act of 2005? Under this Act, section 12, 13 and 14 deal with the setting up of and functioning of the Central Information Commission. The central government has to appoint the Central Information Commission, which shall consist of a Chief Information Commissioner and such numbers of Central Information Commissioners not exceeding 10. The Chief Information Commissioner and other members are appointed by the President on the recommendations of a committee consisting of the Prime Minister, who shall be chairperson of the committee, the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, and a cabinet minister to be nominated by the Prime Minister. Section 15, 16 and 17 of the RTI Act deal with the setting up of and functioning of the State Information Commissions. The state government has to appoint the State Information Commission consisting of State Chief Information Commissioner and such numbers of State Information Commissioners not exceeding 10 as may be deemed necessary. The State Chief Information Commissioner and other members are appointed by the President of India on the recommendations of a committee consisting of Chief Minister, who shall be the chairperson of the committee, the leader of opposition in the Legislative Assembly, and a cabinet minister to be nominated by the Chief Minister of the state concerned. What are the powers of these commissions? The powers are enumerated in the section 18. The Central Information Commission, State Information Commissions has a duty to receive complaints from any person who has not been able to submit an information request because a public information officer or a PIO has not been appointed. A person who has been refused information that was requested, a person who has received no response to his or her request within the specified time limits, a person who thinks the fees charged are unreasonable, a person who thinks information given is incomplete or false or misleading, and any other matter relating to obtaining information under the RTI Act of 2005. They have the power to order inquiry if there are reasonable grounds. The Central Information Commissioner, the State Chief Information Commissioner will have powers of a civil court. They have the power to secure compliance of the decisions from the public authority for providing access to information in a particular form, directing the public authority to appoint a PIO or an assistant public information officer where none exists, publishing information or categories of information, making necessary changes to the practices relating to management, maintenance and destruction of records, enhancing training provision for officials on right to information, seeking an annual report from the public authority on compliance with the RTI law, require it to compensate for any loss or other detriment suffered by the applicant, impose penalties under this law or reject the application. So, these are the various courses which are open to the central information commissioners or the state commissioners. The appellate provisions under section 19 are distinct and independent of the powers and functions of the state information commissioners or the central information commissioners to inquire under section 18. Under section 18 of the act, the SIC or CIC is not empowered to pass a direction to the state information officer, central information officer, for furnishing the information sought for by the complaint. Now, how is the third party information under the act dealt with? If an applicant seeks any information which relates to or has been supplied by a third party and the third party has treated that information as confidential, the public information officer shall consider whether the information should be disclosed or not. The guiding principle in all such cases is that, except in the case of trade or commercial secrets protected by law, disclosure may be allowed if the public interest in disclosure outweighs in importance any possible harm or injury to the interests of such third party. If the public information officer intends to disclose the information, he shall, within 5 days from the receipt of the application, give a written notice to the third party that the information has been sought by the applicant under the RTI Act, that he intends to disclose the information. He shall request the third party to make a submission in writing or orally regarding whether the information may be disclosed. The third party shall be given a time of 10 days from the date of receipt of notice by him or her to make a representation against the proposed disclosure, if any. We have seen the provisions of the Right to Information Act of 2005. In conclusion, the right to information is derived from our fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression under Article 19 of the Constitution. Access to information promotes transparency and accountability of the government for its actions. This is especially true in cases of human rights where, due to violations, the circumstances of the victims become urgent. Moreover, in order to tackle systematic culture of violations, it is very necessary to locate the source of decision making in the government which is allowing the government to deprive sections of persons from basic fundamental rights. RTI Act has laid down a thorough mechanism where such information can be accessed, and thus it has contributed to holding the relevant authorities and bodies responsible, and it will continue to do so. However, the indifference of the authorities as well as successive attempts to dilute the provisions of the RTI Act must be resisted, since, as already mentioned and reiterated, right to information is of paramount importance in a liberal democracy such as India. Thank you.